Hello, and welcome to Bookspot. I'm Earl Weinberg. This time we will continue our reading of Have Spacesuit Will Travel by Robert Heinlein. Our hero and narrator Kip has been dragged across the solar system to the star Vega and now to the Lesser Magellanic Cloud, only to find that he is to be witness as the human race is put on trial. Clifford Russell. Huh? I'm here. Pee-wee squeezed my hand. Is this your voice? I said, wait a minute. Yes, speak. I took a breath. Pee-wee pushed closer and whispered, make it good, Kip. They mean it. I'll try, kid, I whispered, then went on. What is this? I was told you intend to judge the human race. That is correct. But you can't. You haven't enough to go on. No better than witchcraft, just as Unio said. You brought in a caveman, then decided he was a mistake. That isn't your only mistake. You had Unio here, whatever he was, and I'm not ashamed of him. I'm proud of him. He's got nothing to do with now. He's been dead 2,000 years pretty near, if you've sent him back, I mean. And all that he was is dead with him. Good or bad, he's not what the human race is now. I know that. You two are the test sample of your race now. Yes, but you can't judge from us. Pee-wee and I are about as far from average as any specimens can be. We don't claim to be angels, either one of us. If you condemn our race on what we have done, you do a great injustice. Judge us, or judge me at least, me too, on whatever I've done, but don't hold my people responsible. That's not scientific. That's not valid mathematics. It is valid. It is not. Human beings aren't molecules. They're all different. I decided not to argue about jurisdiction. The worm faces had ruined that approach. Agreed, human beings are not molecules, but they are not individuals either. Yes, they are. They are not independent individuals. They are parts of a single organism. Each cell in your body contains your whole pattern. From 3 samples of the organism you call the human race, I can predict the future potentialities and limits of that race. We have no limits. There's no telling what our future will be. It may be that you have no limits, the voice agreed. That is to be determined. But if true, it is not a point in your favor, for we have limits. Huh? You have misunderstood the purpose of this examination. You speak of justice. I know what you think you mean. But no 2 races have ever agreed on the meaning of that term, no matter how they say it. It is not a concept I deal with here. This is not a court of justice. Then what is it? You would call it a security council, or you might call it a committee of vigilantes. It does not matter what you call it. My sole purpose is to examine your race and see if you threaten our survival. If you do, I will dispose of you. The only certain way to avert a grave danger is to remove it while it is small. Things that I've learned about you suggest a possibility that you may someday threaten the security of the 3 galaxies. I will now determine the facts. But you said that you have to have at least 3 samples. The caveman was no good. We have 3 samples, you 2 and the Roman. But the facts could be determined from 1 sample. The use of 3 is a custom from earlier times, a cautious habit of checking and rechecking. I cannot dispense justice. I can make sure not to produce error. I was about to say he was wrong even if he was 1,000,000 years old, but the voice went on, I continue the examination. Clifford Russell, is this your voice? My voice sounded then, and again it was my own dictated account, but this time everything was left in. Purple adjectives, personal opinions, comments about other matters, every word in stutter. I listened to enough of it, held up my hand. All right, I said it. The recording stopped. Do you now confirm it? Yes. Do you wish to add, subtract, or change? I thought hard. Aside from a few wisecracks that I had tucked in later, it was a straightforward account. No, I stand on it. And is this also your voice? This one fooled me. It was that endless recording I had made for Professor Joe about, well, everything on Earth. History, customs, peoples, the works. Suddenly I knew why Professor Joe had worn the same badge as Mother Thing. What did they call it? Planting a stool pigeon? Good old Professor Joe, the no good, had been a stoolie. I felt sick. Let me hear more of it. They accommodated me. I didn't really listen. I was trying to remember not what I was hearing, but what else I might have said, what I had admitted that could be used against the human race. The Crusades, slavery, the gas chambers at Dachau. How much had I said? The recording droned on. Why, that thing had taken weeks to record. We could stand here until our feet went flat. It's my voice. Do you stand on this too, or do you wish to correct, revise, or extend? I said cautiously, can I do the whole thing over? If you so choose. I started to say that I would, that they should wipe the tape and start over, but would they? Or would they keep both and compare them? I had no compunctions about lying. Tell the truth and shame the devil is no virtue when your family and friends and your whole race are at stake. But could they tell if I lied? The Mother Thing said to tell the truth and not be afraid. But she's not on our side. Oh, yes, she is. I had to answer. I was so confused that I couldn't think. I had tried to tell the truth to Professor Joe. Oh, maybe I had shaded things, not included every horrid thing that makes a headline, but it was essentially true. Could I do better under pressure? Would they let me start fresh and accept any propaganda I cooked up? Or would the fact that I changed stories be used to condemn our race? I stand on it. Let it be integrated. Patricia Wynant-Reisfeld. Pee-wee took only moments to identify and allow to be integrated her recordings. She simply followed my example. The machine voice said, the facts have been integrated. By their own testimony, these are a savage and brutal people given to all manner of atrocities. They eat each other, they starve each other, they kill each other. They have no art and only the most primitive of science, yet such is their violent nature that even with so little knowledge, they are now energetically using it to exterminate each other, tribe against tribe. Their driving will is such that they may succeed. But if by some unlucky chance they fail, they will inevitably, in time, reach the stars. It is this possibility which must be calculated. How soon they will reach us, if they live, and what their potentialities will then be. The voice continued to us. This is the indictment against you, your own savagery combined with superior intelligence. What have you to say in your defense? I took a breath and tried to steady down. I knew that we had lost, yet I had to try. I remember how the Mother Thing had spoken. My Lord Peers, correction, we are not your lords, nor has it been established that you are our equals. If you wish to address someone, you may call me moderator. Yes, Mr. Moderator, I said, and tried to remember what Socrates had said to his judges. He knew ahead of time that he was condemned, just as we knew. But somehow, though he had been forced to drink hemlock, he had won, and they had lost. No, I couldn't use his apologia. All he had lost was his own life. This was everybody. You say we have no art. Have you seen the Parthenon? Blown up in one of your wars. Better see it before you rotate us, or you'll be missing something. Have you read our poetry? Our revels now are ended. These our actors, as I foretold you, were all spirits and are melted into air, into thin air. And like the baseless fabric of this vision, the cloud-capped towers, the gorgeous palaces, the solemn temples, the great globe itself, yea, all which it inherit, shall dissolve. I broke down. I heard Pee-wee sobbing beside me. I don't know why I picked that one, but they say the subconscious mind never does things accidentally. I guess it had to be that one. As it well may, commented the merciless voice. I don't think it's any of your business what we do, as long as we leave you alone. My stammer was back and I was almost sobbing. We have made it our business. We aren't under your government and correction. 3 Galaxies is not a government. conditions for government cannot obtain in so vast a space such varied cultures. We have simply formed police districts for mutual protection. But even so, we haven't troubled your cops. We were in our own backyards. I was in my own backyard when these worm-faced things came along and started troubling us. We haven't hurt you. I stopped, wondering where to turn. I couldn't guarantee good behavior, not for the whole human race. The machine knew it, and I knew it. Inquiry. It was talking to itself again. These creatures appear to be identical with the old race, allowing for mutation. Which part of the third galaxy are they from? It answered itself, naming coordinates that meant nothing to me. But they are not of the old race. They are ephemerals. That is the danger. They change too fast. Didn't the old race lose a ship out that way a few half-deaths of thorium-230 ago? Could that account for the fact that the youngest sample failed to match? It answered firmly, it is immaterial whether or not they may be descended from the old race. An examination is in progress. A decision must be made. The decision must be sure. It will be. The bodiless voice went on to us. Have either of you anything to add in your defense? I had been thinking of what had been said about the miserable state of our science. I wanted to point out that we had gone from muscle power to atomic power in only 2 centuries, but I was afraid that fact would be used against us. Pee-wee, can you think of anything? She suddenly stepped forward and shrilled to the air, Doesn't it count that Kip saved the mother thing? No, the cold voice answered. It is irrelevant. Well, it ought to count, she was crying again. You ought to be ashamed of yourselves, bullies, cowards. Oh, you're worse than the worm faces. I pulled her back. She hit her head against my shoulder and shook. Then she whispered, I'm sorry, Kip. I didn't mean to. I guess I've ruined it. It was ruined anyhow, honey. Have you anything more to say? Old No-Face went on relentlessly. I looked around at the hall, the cloud-capped towers, the great globe itself. Just this, I said savagely. It's not a defense. You don't want a defense. All right, take away our star. You will if you can, and I guess you can. Go ahead. We'll make a star. Then someday we'll come back and hunt you down. All of you. That's telling him, Kip. That's telling him. Nobody bawled me out. I suddenly felt like a kid who has made a horrible mistake at a party and doesn't know how to cover it up. But I meant it. Oh, I didn't think we could do it. Not really. Not yet. But we'd try. Die trying is the proudest human thing. It is possible that you will, that infuriating voice went on. Are you through? I'm through. We were all through, every one of us. Does anyone speak for them? Humans, will any race speak for you? We didn't know any other races. Dogs? Maybe dogs would. I speak for them. Pee-wee raised her head with a jerk. Other thing. Suddenly she was in front of us. Pee-wee tried to run to her, bounced off that invisible barrier. I grabbed her. Easy, hun, she isn't there. It's some sort of television. My Lord Piers, you have the advantage of many minds and much knowledge. It was odd to see her singing, hear her in English. The translation still held that singing quality. But I know them. It is true that they are violent, especially the smaller one, but they are not more violent than is appropriate to their ages. Can we expect mature restraint in a race whose members all must die in early childhood? And are we not ourselves violent? Have we not this day killed our billions? Can any race survive without the willingness to fight? It is true that these creatures are often more violent than is necessary or wise, but my peers, they are so very young. Give them time to learn. That is exactly what there is to fear, that they may learn. Your race is overly sentimental. It distorts your judgment. Not true. We are compassionate. We are not foolish. I myself have been the proximate cause of how many, many adverse decisions. You know, it is in your records. I prefer not to remember. And I shall be again. When a branch is diseased beyond healing, it must be pruned. We are not sentimental. We are the best watchers you have ever found, for we do it without anger. Toward evil we have no mercy, but the mistakes of a child we treat with loving forbearance. Have you finished? I say that this branch need not be pruned. I have finished. The mother thing's image vanished. The voice went on. Does any other race speak for them? I do. Where she had been now stood a large green monkey. He stared at us and shook his head, then suddenly did a somersault and finished looking at us between his legs. I'm no friend of theirs, but I am a lover of justice, in which I differ from my colleagues in this council. He twirled rapidly several times. As our sister has said, this race is young. The infants of my own noble race bite and scratch each other. Some even die from it. Even I behaved so at one time. He jumped into the air, landed on his hands, did a flip from that position. Yet does anyone here deny that I am civilized? He stopped, looked at us thoughtfully while scratching. These are brute savages, and I don't see how anyone could ever like them, but I say, give them their chance. His image disappeared. The voice said, Have you anything to add before a decision is reached? I started to say, no, get it over with, and when Pee-wee grabbed my ear and whispered. I listened, nodded, and spoke. Mr. Moderator, if the verdict is against us, can you hold off your hangman long enough to let us go home? We know that you can send us home in only a few minutes. The voice did not answer quickly. Why do you wish this? As I have explained, you are not personally on trial. It has been arranged to let you live. We know. We'd rather be home, that's all, with our people. Again, a tiny hesitation. It shall be done. Are the facts sufficient to permit a decision? Yes. What is the decision? This race will be re-examined in a dozen half-deaths of radium. Meanwhile, there is danger to it from itself. Against this mischance, it will be given assistance. During the probationary period, it will be watched closely by guardian mother. The machine trilled the true vegan name of the mother thing. The cop on that beat, who will report at once any ominous change. In the meantime, we wish this race good progress in its long journey upward. Let them now be returned forthwith to the space-time whence they came. Chapter 12. I didn't think it was safe to make our atmosphere descent in New Jersey without filing a flight plan. Princeton is near important targets. We might be homed on by everything up to A missiles. The mother thing got that indulgent chuckle in her song. I fancy we can avoid that. She did. She put us down in a side street, sang goodbye, and was gone. It's not illegal to be out at night in a spacesuit, even carrying a rag dolly, but it's unusual. Cops hauled us in. They phoned Pee-wee's father, and in 20 minutes we were in his study drinking cocoa and talking and eating shredded wheat. Pee-wee's mother almost had a fit. While we told our story, she kept gasping, I can't believe it, until Professor Reisfeld said, Stop it, Janice, or go to bed. I don't blame her. Her daughter disappears on the moon and is given up for dead, then miraculously reappears on Earth. But Professor Reisfeld believed us. The way the mother thing had understanding, he had acceptance. When a fact came along, he junked theories that failed to match. He examined Pee-wee's suit, had her switch on the helmet, shined a light to turn it opaque, all with a little smile. Then he reached for the phone. Dario must see this. At midnight, Kurt? Please, Janice, Armageddon won't wait for office hours. Professor Reisfeld? Yes, Kip? You may want to see the other things first. That's possible. I took things from Oscar's pockets. 2 beacons, one for each of us, some metal paper covered with equations, 2 happy things, and 2 silvery spheres. We had stopped on Vega 5, spending most of the time under what I suppose was hypnosis, while Professor Joe and another Professor Thing pumped us for what we knew of human mathematics. They hadn't been learning math from us. Oh no, they wanted the language we use for math, from radicals and vectors to those weird symbols in higher physics, so that they could teach us. The results were on the metal paper. First, I showed Professor Reisfeld the beacons. The mother thing's beat now includes us. She says to use these if we need her. She'll usually be close by, 1,000 light years at most, but even if she's far away, she'll come. Oh. He looked at mine. It was neater and smaller than the one she haywired on Pluto. Do we dare take it apart? Well, it's got a lot of power tucked in it. It might explode. Yes, it might. He handed it back, looking wistful. A happy thing can't be explained. They look like those little abstract sculptures you feel as well as look at. Mine was like obsidian, but warm and not hard. Pee-wee's was more like jade. The surprise comes when you touch one to your head. I had Professor Reisfeld do so, and he looked awed. The mother thing is all around you, and you feel warm and safe and understood. He said, "She loves you." The message wasn't for me. Excuse me. Oh, she loves you too. Eh? She loves everything small and young and fuzzy and helpless. That's why she's a mother thing. I didn't realize how it sounded, but he didn't mind. You say she's a police officer? Well, she's more of a juvenile welfare officer. This is a slum neighborhood we're in, backward and pretty tough. Sometimes she has to do things she doesn't like. But she's a good cop, and somebody has to do the nasty jobs. She doesn't shirk them. I'm sure she wouldn't. Would you like to try it again? Do you mind? Oh, no, it doesn't wear out. He did, and got that warm, happy look. He glanced at Pee-wee, asleep with her face in her cereal. I need not have worried about my daughter between the mother thing and you. It was a team, I explained. We couldn't have made it without Pee-wee. The kid's got guts. Too much sometimes. Other times you need that extra. These spheres are recorders. Do you have a tape recorder, Professor? Certainly, sir. We set it up and let a sphere talk to it. I wanted a tape because the spheres are one-shot. The molecules go random again. Then I showed him the metal paper. I had tried to read it, got maybe 2 inches into it, then just recognized a sign here and there. Professor Reisfeld got halfway down the first page and stopped. I'd better make those phone calls. And we'll learn about the phone calls and the rest of Kip's trip next time.